Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologize for the slight delay. Nathan White and I were working on something behind the scenes. We're always doing something. Rest assured, when you think that we are not doing anything, sometimes we actually are doing things. And so it just came down to the last minute and I let it run into start time. But we are here and we are ready to start talking about all sorts of things that affect the faith, the family, and the fellowship as we seek to defend it. Hey, I want to remind you, while the audio was not great, and once again, trust me, we're working on stuff, we do have a new series that is available on YouTube and the website right now, a guide to the Greek Scriptures. So if you are interested in that, we covered the Gospels this past Sunday, and hopefully you found that to be a decent overall outline, a guide to the Greek Scriptures as we are beginning this new short series on Sunday mornings. Now, a few things we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about, obviously you can see the title, Christianity Today. They have an article and I think it's wrong. Surprise, surprise. But I'm going to explain why I think it's wrong in their entire analysis of it. And I think they're really wrong in totality. We'll look at the article and I'll explain myself. We're also going to briefly discuss a shooting that took place in New York City, just right off of the events of this stabbing that took place in Michigan. And I think the story is going to be the same. We need good guys, toxic masculinity, men protecting others. And that's the problem. We're short on that in this world, and there's a lot of evil men in this world. We're going to briefly mention some scandalous things, potentially scandalous, or some accusations anyways, made against the state superintendent in Oklahoma, and I'm going to give all my thoughts on that matter. So if you're somebody who is an Oklahoman or just in general, we're going to talk about that very briefly. We're also going to look at a post from the Christian Post about why the NFL is more popular than church, all right? And we're going to analyze their thoughts on the matter, and I'll give you my thoughts on the matter. But before we do that, we are getting ready. By we, I mean me and my family and I. Let's get it right, grammar teachers. We are getting ready to go to the Branson Bible Conference. I have some exciting plans there to do some things. Obviously, Dr. White will be doing his own things, and I am an opportunist, and so I will absolutely ride his coattails any chance I get. And be on the lookout for that. I hope that you can be there in person because I'd love to get to talk to you, meet with you in person so you can see that, oh wow, you're so much better looking than you are on camera, or whatever you want to say to me. I'd love to be able to meet with you and share some time with you. I know last time some of you may have been there, and then due to some personal reasons I had to leave. But I plan on being there full time, all 3 days of the Bible conference at the end of this month. So I'm registered. I hope you're registered. Dr. White said there's a little bit of time left. So go ahead and go over to randywhiteministries.org and get registered for the Branson Bible Conference. Now, all that being said, and the plans that I have there, it also got me thinking about our Bible conference that we're going to be doing in the spring, probably around the same time. I've got a lot of ideas. There's a lot of things going on in the noggin for what we'll be covering. I'm not yet ready to reveal any of that to you. Probably around 6 months out or so is when I'll start giving you more details, hopefully to have an official title and things like that. These things do take a good amount of prep time, at least for me. But what I do want to know is, in the days leading up to the Bible conference, and even before I give the official announcement, the title, the subject matter, the schedule, what would you want? What are some things you'd be looking for as far as a resource? Whether you would be attending online or in person. What are some things that you would maybe like to see as we get ready to organize and do another Bible conference? Are there some things, printed resources, online resources, in-person resources, anything that you would like? What I want is I would love for you to be there in person. There's just something about getting to meet together and fellowship with right dividing believers. It's a great blessing. And I want to give you no excuses, all right? No excuses to not come. But either way, whether you're going to be in person or online, let me know if there's something we can do to accommodate you, to help you, to make it a little bit better, all right? That's the goal. That's the objective. So those are things that are on my mind. Please be thinking about that and let me know. Give me a comment if you have any suggestions that you think would help us. Now, all that, let's get to this very sad story that comes to us here out of New York. This is reporting from Daily Wire. An officer dead, multiple injured after a gunman storms Manhattan office building. The gunman made it to the 33rd floor after shooting a number of people, killing a law enforcement officer, and then we believe he took his own life. The truth is, I don't know how much is even factual about the story. So I don't have a lot to say as far as particular details, what the motives of this guy were, where he got his gun. We do know that he was from out of state. Reports that I'm seeing is that he is actually from Las Vegas. That's a report that I found. Once again, we're going to leave all that very brief because I don't know how much detail is actually true there, and I don't want to speculate. He did use a rifle, probably an AR-15, and so what this means is this will probably make the news cycles on CNN. It will probably be cited by some politicians because it does fit the media narrative. Now, ignore the fact that we just had a stabbing in which 11 people were wounded, a number of them severely wounded, but that story ended with a good guy with a gun stopping a bad guy. This one will fit the media's narrative, and so therefore they will run with it for a little while. Now, the only problem is the gunman, the killer. Doesn't matter what you use, you're a killer either way. I think doctors kill every day when they perform abortions. Anyways, the gunman, the killer, was not a white man. Sorry, CNN. That was one of the things CNN was mentioning, possibly white. That probably just means they were hoping it was a white man so then they could run their race-baiting propaganda for a few weeks. That's not the case. He was not a white man, but we also don't know if he was... It's not like he was, as far as we know, shouting Allahu Akbar or anything else. It's a sad story. What's the point of it? Now, first of all, gun-free zones are ridiculous and absurd, and the entire state of New York is essentially a gun-free zone. Law enforcement officers have guns, and then the criminals have guns. This is not good. This is a problem. If it was just commonly practiced that men and women took responsibility to have a gun for their own self-defense, this bad guy should have been shot within about the first 5 seconds of getting in the bottom floor. But that's not the world we live in. We live in a world where people say, give us your guns, we'll protect you, and then the innocent people give up their guns and the bad guys use guns illegally because guess what? They're bad guys and they don't care about the law. So this is something that just really is near to me in my convictions, in my belief, in my worldview. I'll always speak out against the immorality that is gun confiscation, gun control, all of those things. So we'll continue to see if there's any more further developments of the story, any further details or information. Of course, we should be praying for all the victims, whether it's the stabbing victims, the shooting victims. So keep them in your prayers. Now, moving on, one more story before we get into some theology matters, and I'm trying to think how to even approach this. This comes from K4, which is an Oklahoma news website, and here's the heading here. Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office joins investigation into Walters' nude images allegations. All right, now Ryan Walters, is the state superintendent. He has come under fire for some things that are entirely justified, some things that I think are not entirely justified. Here is my point. Ryan Walters has made a lot of enemies. Okay, people just don't like him. With that being said, here is the incident that is being investigated. A criminal investigation is underway after bombshell allegations, notice the words, bombshell allegations, of explicit nude images played on a TV in State Superintendent Ryan Walters' office during last week's state school board meeting. The Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office tells News 4 that state office officials brought them in because they wanted to figure out not only if what allegedly happened in Walters' office was unethical, but also if it amounted to a crime. Now, this is all alleged. This is not proven fact, okay? The specifics of what that investigation will include are pretty murky right now. We are looking into it, was reported by a spokesperson. It says the state's Office of Management and Enterprise Services reached out Monday asking them to investigate if anything criminal happened. We just don't know whether there was any criminal activity, Brillbeck said, the spokesperson. And that's the role of the Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office and our investigators right now is to look into that. News 4 reported Friday that state school board members Ryan Detheridge, Ryan Detheridge and Becky Carson. Now, I don't know who those individuals are. I'm going to see if we can find them. All right. Now, I would imagine, though, that some of you may know these people. I don't know them personally. What I am curious is who or what motives might they have. Now, I don't know if the political affiliation of these people is able to be easily known. Ryan Detheridge is an experienced business owner, management professional. This is coming from Oklahoma.gov. In his role as Director of Emergency Management, Ryan revitalized local emergency programs. As an Associate Director of Oklahoma Baptist Disaster Relief, okay, so he's involved there. I don't know who he was, who appointed him to the position. I think that's how it works. I think you're appointed. His entrepreneurial spirit is evident. So I don't know. I really don't know his background. Okay, Ryan Detheridge. I don't know if he's been a Ryan Walters apologist or if he's been a Ryan Walters enemy. Now, the truth is, if it said here on this website that Ryan Detheridge is a registered Republican, which he does work with the Baptist Disaster Relief, Oklahoma is pretty conservative, that's possible. That doesn't say anything because, as I've said, Ryan Walters already has enemies on both the right and the left. There's a lot of public school people who are very conservative who do not like Ryan Walters because of how he's implemented some state policies. Ryan Walters is very pro-private school, and when you've got a state that's made up of a lot of public school teachers, there's just going to be a lot of ire there. So it doesn't really matter so much the accusations. Now, we would hope that this man is not lying. I think if the allegation is made, then we need to carry it out to the fullest. Obviously, you assume innocent until proven guilty, but there are the allegations. The other person who brought forth the accusation was Becky Carson. All right, and so here she is. Becky Carson was born and educated in OKC, who now resides in Edmond. She received her master's in education from the University of Central Oklahoma. Let's see here. I don't know if we get a whole lot more about her. They love attending Falls Creek Church Camp with the youth. I don't know, her background either, as far as her previous statements on Ryan Walters or her political leanings. Unfortunately, Christianity is not as conservative as it used to be, so it's all up for question there. Here's some information on the Journal record. So she was appointed by Governor Stitt, so that would speak to her being, like I said, at least conservative. Retired special education teacher Becky Carson, appointed by Kevin Stitt. Now, once again, that doesn't mean that the allegations are true, because like I said, Ryan Walters has made a lot of enemies, both on the right and the left. So what should be done here? So as the story goes, they saw in his office, on his TV, nude images. It, of course, is, illegal, or it's a fireable offense here to, not illegal, but a fireable offense, to look at explicit content on state-issued devices. Sadly, we're in a world where explicit content exists, and it's a problem. Now, what's not clear is how those images allegedly ended up on Walter's TV. Okay, there is no verifiable proof that these images were in fact on his TV. All it is allegedly. I do have some questions. Kitty, who has some knowledge on this, says Deathridge was appointed by Stitt, so he's not a supporter of Walters. Okay. Okay, so, maybe, if I'm reading you right there, Kitty, so Deathridge is maybe more outspoken, no fan of Ryan Walters. I don't know about Becky Carson, like I said. He's made a lot of enemies, all right? He's not a popular guy. How or why, let's say that, Ryan Walters, like many men in America, because we live in this terrible time in which you can access all sorts of perversion on your phone, all right, or the internet. Let's say that he was engaging in it, had a virus for, let's go with the first one. He's engaging in it. Why would you risk it being discovered by using it on a television or using it on any device that is state-owned and not your personal device? That would seem like a really idiotic move, an idiotic thing to do. Now, maybe you could argue, well, he uses his cell phone for screen sharing, right? I do that like on Sunday mornings when I'm doing Sunday school or Wednesday night Bible study. I do screen sharing from my laptop to my TV. Maybe it was on his phone and it was screen shared to his TV on accident, and there it is. Okay, maybe so. Maybe so. That would have to be the most likely scenario. Now, with that being a state official, you would think he would have a state-issued cell phone for those purposes, would he not? Those would be state government matters. So why would he be doing screen sharing from his personal phone to his TV? There's just a lot of questions there. So here is my point. Let the investigation be done. I'll read your comment here in a minute, Kitty. Let the investigation be done, all right? And let's see if there's any evidence that this is in fact what he did. Let me read Kitty's comment, and then I'm going to continue to make my point, because Kitty does know. She's there. She's involved. Walters is in the statewide charter school board I serve on, but only showed up when there were TV cameras regarding the St. Isidore mess. He does send someone to represent him at our other meetings. Yeah, like I said, and I've complained about Ryan Walters. I think one of the great blunders of all time was him in a last-minute decision last year in July, commanding all public schools to implement the Bible into their curriculum without really any guidelines at all, doing it last minute without it being organized. The Bible absolutely needs to be a part of our curriculum, but it needs to be organized. It needs to be well thought out. It doesn't need to be for grandstanding. I do think Ryan Walters tends to do a lot of grandstanding. Of course, a lot of politicians do. And he is a politician. So absolutely, we can talk about a lot of his faults, but what I want to do right now is address a very real problem. We do live in a world where people can just make allegations because they don't like someone. Now, maybe it's entirely possible that this story is true. However, if there is no available evidence to prove that these nude images were on a state-used TV in his office, which, once again, why would they be there? You would have to imagine, once again, some sort of screen sharing from a personal device to the TV. That really the only thing that makes sense to me. But then again, maybe I'm giving him too much credit and he's not that smart. I don't know. All that being said, if you cannot find proof, he needs to be completely and totally exonerated of all this. That has nothing to do with me trying to defend him as a person, so you'll like him. Once again, I'm not a Ryan Walters apologist, all right, for a number of reasons. I'm also probably not his biggest opposition either, antagonist. I think it could be a lot worse. I try to be a political optimist when I can. All that to be said, we live in a world where people can just make allegations. One of the scariest things that ever happened to me was when I was a public school educator. And I had, and I'm going to make it sound worse than what it really was, but it's scary. I had an allegation made against me. Not for anything too heinous, but heinous enough to be problematic. And that was terrifying because I didn't do what was being insinuated. Talking about life flashing before your eyes, I thought my career was over. I thought my ministry, because I was a preacher then, I thought it was over, all over something that did not happen, verifiably false because there were many witnesses all around, and yet all because the accusation of a couple people. I thought my entire life was about to be ruined. I was going to be unhireable. I was going to, if I was lucky, I would get to work, unloading trucks at Walmart or something. I don't know. Not that anything wrong with, unloading trucks at Walmart, but I hear they're hiring, right? That's my point. So all that being said, if what is said about Ryan Walters is false, let the investigation be done. If there is no proof that it happened, find another reason to be against Ryan Walters. And you have plenty of reasons. Do not levy false accusations against him because you're trying to bring him down. We've seen it happen many times before. Many times. False accusations made an effort to bring down someone. So I say let the investigation play out, see if there's anything that can be proven, and if nothing is proven, you need to move on, right? So let the public move on. And don't make snickering jokes, because you know what? You couldn't prove it, so you don't get to use that. You don't get to use that. You need to focus on what he has failed to do as the state superintendent, not what somebody claimed he did and there was no verifiable evidence that he did. It's a very dangerous thing in society when people can just accuse you of something. Even where the position I'm at today as a preacher of a church, there could be accusations levied against me, and if people pushed it enough, I could be done. My life could be ruined if they really tried hard enough. And that's just the way the world is, because our society will always say, well, you know what they said he did? You know what they said Ryan Walters did? Well, who said it? Two people. One of them who is, well, we understand, no fan of Ryan Walters, who would maybe have some motives. Now, maybe if it comes out that Becky Carson has been a big defender of Ryan Walters and now she's saying this is the case, maybe I'm more inclined to consider it. But if it's two people who have been outspokenly against him and maybe have good motives, they believe they're justified in getting rid of him, I don't know. It's a scary thing when allegations and accusations are levied against you and you are innocent in those things. There's a whole lot of reasons to be critical of Ryan Walters, all right? And a false allegation, if it is not one of them. So we'll see how all that plays out. And maybe it did happen, and if so, let disciplinary punishments be carried out, because that's exactly what should happen. But let the investigation be done. Those are my thoughts on those kind of matters. You've got to do your due diligence to see all that through, one way or another. Okay, now let's go ahead and look at this article from Christianity Today. And this is the reason why this was so appealing to me is what I preached on Sunday. Here is the article. In those days, there was no king over AI. In those days, there was no king over AI. So Christianity Today has got an article over AI, and what they're going to be, well, here's the question they pose. How should Christians engage with artificial intelligence when people are doing what is right in their own eyes? So their entire premise here is the fact that there is Grok, that there's ChatGPT, that there's Google's AI, whatever, that this is a major, major problem. Because how are we going to engage with artificial intelligence when there's nobody that's policing artificial intelligence? There's nobody that's in charge of it. You just got AI companies just producing AI servers, and they're just saying all sorts of stuff. Let's listen to their article, and I'm going to present to you why I think they're getting not only the discussion on AI wrong, but I think they're getting the discussion on the Bible wrong. Of course, Christianity Today getting the discussion on the Bible wrong. Shocker, shocker. But let's go ahead and read it. Like ancient Israel in the time of the judges, the artificial intelligence industry has no king, no regulatory body, no U.S. federal laws, only piecemeal state-level oversight and patchy ethical principles that are largely ignored. I can already tell by where they're going with this. You did not read Judges or 1 Samuel, did you? You're telling on yourself, Christianity Today, because you're taking a single passage reference and you're going to try to build your argument here about AI. I can tell you didn't read the assignment, all right? You didn't read the assigned chapter. You didn't do your homework. This is going to backfire on you in a big way. Let's go ahead and see the train wreck that is Christianity Today. Companies such as OpenAI suggest regulation is needed and then balk when actual regulations are proposed. Meanwhile, harms well documented by tech companies themselves, including misinformation and manipulation, data bias, and damage to the environment, continue largely unabated. So they're framing this. It's a terrible thing that there is no one in charge saying what and what cannot be done with AI. We need an oligarchy. We need a monarchy. We need a king to tell us how to use the AI. That's what they're saying. Because there was a time when Israel had no king. And oh, how terrible it was. Right? Everyone did what was right in their own eyes. Each man managed his affairs as he saw fit. He didn't listen to there was no king to tell him what to do or how to live or what to say or what to think. How terrible. It continues. While the AI landscape lacks the bloody tent-peg violence of the book of Judges, the book of Judges is bad. Woo, the book of Judges, so terrible. Israel was so wicked in the book of Judges. Do you remember how in 1st and 2nd Kings and 1st and 2nd Chronicles, how everything was sunshine and roses? They never did anything bad in 1st, 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles. They never bowed down to idols. They never committed any atrocities. They never caused their children to pass through the fire to Molech. Oh, wait. Uh-oh. You got to read your Bible, Christianity Today. Bless your hearts. AI companies and users are doing what is right in their own eyes. Engineers, lawmakers, lobbyists, critics, and consumers operate as if they were living in one house, but in separate rooms with the door shut. Okay, so AI companies and users are just using it as they see fit. Terrible thing. Just like in the days of the judges, those wicked, terrible Israelites who should have had a king over them. This is going to backfire on them so badly when we read a few passages of Scripture. Just wait. Narratives promoting hype and fear clamor for our attention. One article describes AI as progress. The next sees it as devolution. Devolution. One of the funniest things we should do, or one of the things we need to do, is we need to clip out every time there's a word that I try to read and I have to work on pronouncing it. Hey, you do this thing every single day, Monday through Friday, reading different spellings of words, okay? You do it. You tell me how it goes, all right? He who has never mispronounced or struggled to read a word casteth the first stone. All right, I digress. Different parties paint the same proposed laws as necessary or destructive. For instance, California lawmakers overwhelmingly voted for regulations that would have made tech companies legally responsible for rare, catastrophic harms caused by their large AI models and also required safety tests. OpenAI said the bill could slow down innovation in Silicon Valley. Prominent voices in AI, including a top AI scientist at Meta, also opposed the bill, which was vetoed by Governor Gavin Newsom. So, California lawmakers were so right in their thinking there. Moving on. While the current technology behind AI might be new, the overarching story is not. I'm so excited when Christianity Today tries to argue theology. It is one of my favorite things. It's like watching a baby whale try to unbeach itself, or it's like listening to someone who thinks they are an expert because they don't know what they don't know. It is so funny to me, and this is one of my great joys, and I'm glad that we get to share this together. All right, so let's move on and see the train wreck unfold, and then we're going to pull out receipts. And by receipts, I mean read the Bible, because clearly Christianity Today read 2 verses and was going to make up their entire argument. For centuries, humans have done what is right in their own eyes, just like the time of the judges. Oh my goodness, the judges, such an evil, terrible time. What was God thinking? What was Israel doing in that time? Let's put aside what was God doing. Let's just focus on Israel, because that's what Christianity Today does. What was Israel thinking? Why didn't they do what God told them to do? Because remember when Israel got into the land and God told them to have a king? God said, appoint a man to be king over you. This is my will. I want you to do this. Isn't that what the Bible said? If you just read Christianity Today and you had never read the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 1, 1 Samuel chapter 8, you would have thought this was the case, that Israel was supposed to go into the land of Canaan, appoint themselves a king to rule over them. That was God's will. How wrong you are, Christianity Today. Yet it isn't all bad news. Even the darkness of judges had faithful leaders like Deborah and Gideon. Can't help it, Christianity Today having to point out, Deborah. That's true. Deborah was good, Christianity Today is a little bit, feminist. Like, there's others. But yes, Deborah was a judge. She was a judgess. That's true, biblical. I got to point out, I think Christianity Today is a little bit woke. That's all I'm saying. Faithful leaders like Deborah and Gideon, who sought to follow God. So too today, there are voices advocating for the good of humanity across the AI landscape. How then should Christians think about AI? How do we respond to AI innovations in a time of no king, no consensus, and no clear path forward? First, we must avoid giving in to hype or fear in our response. Instead, we must look to what God continually called Israelites to do. We must love the Lord and love our neighbors. Because we love God, we put others before ourselves when we think about personal, collective, and societal uses of AI. So, first of all, let's just go to the scriptures really quickly. Let's bring the receipts. So if we go to biblify.worshipify.com and we go to 1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 7, this is after Israel requests a king. And the Lord said unto Samuel, hearken unto the voice of the people in all that they say unto thee, for they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them. According to all the works they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt, even unto this day wherewith they have forsaken me and served other gods, so do they also unto thee. Did you see what that says? God says they are requesting a king because they reject me reigning over them. Christianity Today put themselves in the position of disobedient Israel requesting a king. That is what they just did because they don't read their Bibles. It was just as Jay said down there in the comments. Originally, Israel wasn't supposed to have a king. No, they weren't. It was not God's will for Israel to have a king. And then, as we've said before, when you look at the totality of biblical history, when Israel had a king, that's when things did not go so great. Solomon, there were a few good years. Yeah, that's fine. David, there were some good years. Not that every year that David was king was all that great, but there were some years that it was good. Solomon, first part of the reign, not bad. And then it went downhill in a dramatic way. His son Rehoboam did not go well. The kingdom was divided. And then you go to the northern kingdom, Jeroboam, he fell flat on his face. And in the rest of 1st and 2nd Kings, there's a few little highlights like King Asa, but the rest of it was just failure, 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 failure. And in the book of Judges, you know what happened? Most of the time, Israel was obedient. Israel, for the most part, did what they were supposed to do. Were there a few years of lo me, not my people? God brought affliction upon them due to other nations coming upon them? Absolutely, but you know what? It wasn't the majority like it was in 1st and 2nd Kings. Israel fared way better when God reigned over them and not a king. Yet, we look at the Bible and we see that line, each man did what was right in his own eyes. Oh, how terrible. Each man deciding for himself what he should do, what is morally right, what is morally wrong. Are some men going to be motivated by selfishness, greed, lust, you name it, they will. But I would say give me each man determining for himself as opposed to a single monarch deciding what AI says. Imagine a world, if you will, in which George Soros owned the only AI company in the world. And anytime you used AI, it gave you the lens, or it gave you the world through the lens of George Soros. You wanted a king, didn't you? Come on now, Christianity Today. Isn't that what you want? Of course, then again, Christianity Today may be owned by George Soros, so that's not a good example there. Ironic. Moving on. But imagine that world. Okay, Christianity Today. Here's one. Bonnie, are you over at Christianity Today still? I haven't seen any of your articles in a while. I got my start on Shields and Arrows mostly just reading a bunch of bad articles from Bonnie. Bonnie, how would you like, okay, you want a king, Donald Trump. Donald Trump in charge of AI. Quite frankly, it would be the best AI the world had ever seen. That's what people say. And it would say all sorts of things about how Trump is the best president America's ever had. Make America great again. Keep America great again. Quite frankly, why should we even have term limits? Shouldn't the most popular man be the president? Trump 2028. What are we talking about? Do we want, as fun as it would be to have King Trump reigning on the throne and then giving over the kingdom to his son Barron, when you try to go to the Bible to make this argument, you fall flat on your face. I do not want AI to be ruled, controlled by a single individual. Now, Christianity Today would say, well, but what we mean is the government. We need the government to be in charge. Oh, because the government does such a good job at managing other affairs. I mean, the government is just so efficient. They are always morally right. They are never biased. They're never swayed. They're never corrupt. They're never perverse. They're never self-motivated. What are we talking about? Give me a world where there are 1,000 different AI companies all owned by different people with different convictions. That is an infinitely better world than a world in which one guy owns the AI company. We can speculate a little bit on what the last days will look like, what is the degree of technology, but a world that is owned, or a world that there's one AI company and the king of the world owns it, sounds just a little bit too much to me like the last days and the Antichrist and the tribulation. I don't like it. No, thank you. All right. I do not want that. Myra, I just saw your comment pop up. Government always lives within their budget. They're going to make sure they're taken care of. That's for sure. So Christianity Today In those days, there was no king over Ai. Each man did what was right in his own eyes. Good. Give me more of that. What I don't want is a king leading the world into delusion, leading society into chaos and perversion because he is the decider of truth. So Christianity Today, once again, this is a silly article. I don't know who wrote this article. There's a lot more that they have to say, but they've already said enough. Once again, I have no idea who wrote that. It appeared, it's very recent. Stephen Carradini is an associate professor of technical communication at Arizona State University. So that's what you get having the college professor try to perform biblical analysis as opposed to letting the theologian handle biblical analysis. All right, step aside, buddy. All right, it's time for the men to do the talking here. Or any of you ladies here, because y'all would have realized the very silly theological mistake they made as well. So what a silly thing that Christianity Today said. We should just do a segment called Silly Things Christianity Today Says. That we get a lot of mileage out of that. No king over AI. Thank you. I don't want a king over AI. Let there be a whole bunch of different companies and let them battle it out. All right, moving on. I'm all fired up now. I'm angry. Could you tell I had a second cup of coffee? I did that this morning. I was working on my draws, trying to get my draw down like below a 0.8 consistently. That's very difficult for me. And so I had a second cup of coffee, thought it might help boost the speed, and I think all it did is just make me really excited and mad and fired up. So I'm sorry that you're having to watch this unfold before your eyes. Here's the next thing from the Christian Post. Interesting article that I thought we could close out on. Why is the NFL more popular than the church? Why is the NFL more popular than the church? Could have something to do with, I don't know, the fact that there's served alcohol there. Maybe there's food, which I don't know. At these modern Life Church probably has food. They'll probably have beer before too long. I don't know. Cheerleaders. There's cheerleaders at the NFL games. But then again, there's almost cheerleaders there at the churches too. Yeah, why is the NFL more popular than the church? Let's see what the article says. Why do brunch reservations and NFL kickoffs, or what do brunch reservations and NFL kickoffs have in common? They're more sacred to most Americans than Sunday worship. As curated comforts multiply, church attendance declines, not because faith is obsolete, but because habitual attendance alone no longer fills the pews. In a world of endless alternatives, the church must offer more than convenience. It must offer Christ. Okay, we'll see where they go with this here. There's some articles that I can read the very first few lines and I can know immediately what's wrong with it, like the Christianity Today article. But some of them I have to say, all right, where are we going with it? Let me take a look at it. I'll consider it. I'll ponder it. So here we go. In 2006, economists Jonathan Gruber and Daniel M. Hungerman found that repealing Sunday commerce restrictions was linked to a significant decline in church attendance and giving. Yeah, I mean, that seems to make sense. If you basically let every day be the same, Sunday, the stores are all open, grocery stores, restaurants, you can buy alcohol on Sundays now. Yeah, I mean, people are just going to start treating it like every other day. Does that make sense? Nearly 2 decades later, the trend has worsened. Weekly church attendance has dropped to 20%, and mainline denominations such as the Presbyterian Church, USA, are shrinking rapidly. As Americans are offered more secular alternatives, churches face a defining question. Will Sunday be shaped by Christ or by culture? I think the churches have been shaped by culture, to be honest. I think that they've changed so much about what they do to try to match cultural popularity trends, but I digress once again. The decline of church attendance doesn't necessarily mean faith is disappearing, but it does suggest that churches are no longer offering something unique that Christians can only find in the pews on a Sunday. As long as denominations trade biblical clarity and teaching for cultural conformity, committed Christians and searchers alike will look elsewhere for clarity, depth, and spiritual integrity. It's time for churches to stop chasing relevance and start claiming reverence, to offer conviction, covenant, and God's unchanging truth. I would say that that line right there, the second line, churches are no longer offering something unique that Christians can only find in the pews on a Sunday. I will say, if churches are trying to just be emotionalism, yeah, the NFL is going to give you way more emotions. Consistently. It's going to get people, there's that joke, what does Billy Graham and the Dallas Cowboys have in common? They can both get tens of thousands of people to stand up on their feet and say the Lord's name. That's an old joke. But yeah, the NFL brings emotion, right? It's excitement. You're seeing the greatest athletes on the face of the earth, the most genetically talented, the hardest working, the best that there is. This is the peak athletic performance, playing a sport that requires incredible talent and strength and ability. As much as baseball, I don't know, it's debatable. I may be a little bit biased. But anyways, it is an amazing thing to watch. It's emotions, right? You got the music, you got the surroundings, tens of thousands of people cheering. It's an emotional experience. And guess what? Churches try to just be an emotional experience as well. And if you're trying to just provide emotionalism, which is all that Life Church is, or other churches like it, you're going to lose out to the NFL all the time, because the NFL is just, it's got you beat. There's way too many people. The sporting events are way too exciting. The drama unfolding of playoffs, the Super Bowl, you name it, the underdog stories. You don't know exactly what's going to happen. You're on the edge of your seat. You're so nervous. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen? You're going to lose because you're trying to out-drama the NFL, and you're not going to do it. You can't outbeat them. You can't emotionally beat them, what I'm trying to say. Oh, so let's see here. This isn't just a modern story. The weakening of the church through distraction and compromise is a pattern that spans centuries. 4 centuries ago, Puritans lamented the trade of Sabbath worship for worldly amusement. From holy day sports in 17th century England to NFL Sundays, the tension between cultural convenience and covenantal commitment has long existed. Throughout history, churches have diluted their theology to gain approval or avoid conflict. The 20th century seeker-sensitive movement prioritized accessibility over clarity, drawing crowds but rarely disciples. Yeah, that's the emotionalism. Today, the list of alternative ways to spend your Sunday is longer than ever. Why wake up for church when you can stream a mindfulness podcast, light your favorite anthropology candle, I don't know what that kind of candle is, and sink into a $37,600 couch. Who in the world has a $37,600 couch? It's linked to something. Amazing. Is it worth it? I mean, if it's a $37,600 couch, that thing better make my lunch for me. Better prepare my sermons for me too. All right, so the article goes on and on and on it goes. The results are stark. The Presbyterian Church, once a major denomination, has just over 1 million members in 2024. In the last year alone, it lost 150,000 active members and closed more than 140 congregations. So, churches are closing to a degree, even though some of that is starting to stabilize. The final line is people don't need another worldly institution, vague spirituality, or packaged self-help. They need Christ. You can't out-comfort the church, and the church shouldn't try. Its power lies not in relevance, but in the unchanging Christ. So here's a few thoughts. The NFL is designed to be appealing. The gathering of large crowds to see athletic events have been going on for thousands of years. Go back to the Greeks. The sights, the sounds, the music, the cheerleaders, everything is to appeal to people, to get them excited, to want them to be involved, to partake of it. And the struggle of going to the football game versus going to church, or just thinking about God in general, contemplating the Bible, studying the Bible, praying, mean, this is the struggle that man has always had, the struggle to consider God as opposed to being distracted. Romans chapter 1, right? Worshiping the created versus the creator. So the challenge is already more difficult, or the challenge is already difficult enough because you have exciting NFL event versus the laborious, sometimes viewed as boring prospect of, gathering for, studying the Bible or worshiping God. Churches need to stop trying to compete with the NFL or whatever else. Churches do it all the time. They try to compete with concerts because they try to turn their worship services into concerts. They try to compete with all sorts of things, whether it's motivational speakers because they try to be motivational themselves. They try to be appealing to ladies, and so they will do all sorts of different things to appeal to the women in the church. They're trying to compete with all sorts of stuff, right? It's competition. How do we get people to want to come to church as opposed to go do something else, right? So we have all these different things that we do. Life Church right now is doing a at the movies thing where every week it's a different movie and they say how that movie represents the gospel. Whatever. Stop trying to compete. Don't compete. Just do church or do home church, whatever term you want to use there. Don't try to make it something that is in competition with the NFL. One thing that I think the church could learn from the NFL is, at least the NFL is analytical. There's just shows all day long talking about different stats, how fast this 40 time is, how fast, or how many tackles, how many sacks, how many yards passing, how many yards rushing. They analyze those things. Guys kind of do like analytical stuff. It's a shame that the NFL is more analytical than what churches are. There's some truth to that. Maybe if churches would be a little bit more analytical about studying the Bible, it would help them. It would gain their knowledge. Maybe men might find it more interesting. I don't know. So in our interesting circle back, don't be like the NFL, but the NFL is more analytical than what churches are. The reality is you can't turn everybody into a theologian. Some people are not up to snuff. It's just they're not going to do it no matter how bad you want them to. I've learned this over the years. You cannot take somebody and turn them into a dedicated theologian. You just have to do what you know is right. And maybe you can persuade some people, and some people will find you and they'll come along with you. The masses are always going to want to struggle, or always going to struggle with forsaking the study of God, the worship of God, because that's what humanity's done since the beginning of time. If a community wanted to pass a law that said liquor stores can't operate on Sundays, used to, that was a law. Some counties still have those laws. Used to, but no liquor stores open on Sunday. No restaurants opened on Sunday. A community can do those things. They can decide how a town wants to operate. If this particular town wants to have this certain policy, no alcohol served on Sundays, you can have the restaurants open, no alcohol served on Sundays, you name it. A town can do those things. You're allowed to do so. That's the great thing of democracy. Maybe you could do something like that, but you're still going to struggle with people wanting to neglect matters of the faith. All right. Let's see here. Look at a few comments before we cut you loose. Jay says there's not one church that thinks that article would apply to them. Yeah, no, they wouldn't read that and think that they're committing those errors or those mistakes. Great to have all of you here with us today. Rick was earlier just sitting here eating my egg, onion, and cheddar biscuit sandwich. Well, Rick, I hope that you are having a great time. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that it satisfied you. Well, everybody, I think that's all I've got for today. I'm going to cut myself off before I continue to keep rambling. Tomorrow, like I said, I don't think we're going to be having the live show. I'm going to be doing something. So please be patient with me. We'll be back for Theology Thursday, which we should have plenty of time to be answering your questions for the whole hour. And in the meantime, like I said, be thinking about Bible conference stuff. If there's something that you would like me to implement, give me as much notice as possible so I can do my best to make it happen. Thank you all for joining us today for Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. Appreciate each and every one of you. Please reach out to me. markdbaze@gmail.com is the current email. And so thank you so much. We will see you later.